Lucas, a scared young boy that I first came to know through Super Smash Bros. Brawl's Subspace Emissary. As Lucas runs away from an enormous stone statue and fights off Primids. I'd never seen Lucas before in any Nintendo game though. However, he did bear a remarkable resemblance to Ness, whom I already did know about from prior Smash Bros. Games. I asked my friend who Lucas was and he introduced me to the Mother series. Back then, when I first played Mother 3 about 10 years ago, I didn't fully appreciate the game for what it is. I took it as a charming, quirky game full of strange enemies and a unique combat system. Over the years, my friend has told me that I should replay Mother 3 to reassess the game. Having played it again, I found that it was so much more than just a game. It was a whole experience I've often not felt in video games. It's a masterpiece of art, with the creator Shigesato Itoi in full control as he pulls on your heartstrings in this wonderful family drama where brother is pit against brother, and it is beautiful. I would like to do my best to put into words what this game means to me, and try to do justice to the first game that's ever made me cry. The game begins as any other RPG. You're asked to name your characters, but it also asks you to name your favorite food. Because the only thing I'm good at making is guacamole, I naturally chose that. You're also asked to write what your favorite thing is. It was a tough choice, but I chose art because I couldn't decide. The default answer is love, because that's what this game is all about. Family love. When you're asked to give names for your characters, the characters are the people in your family. Each character has a chance to reveal something about themselves in these subtle, pixelated moments. These go a long way in making you feel at home with this warm and cozy family. Lucas is looking for his dog while Klaus dances with him. Flint, their father, walks in quietly with a nod, and Hinawa, not Hinata, as I mistakenly named her, Hinawa, the heart of the family, is dragged in by her two loving boys. At last, their very, very good boy, Boney, enters, and the family walks away. With that, we've already got a firm grasp on who these people are. Then you're introduced to Nowhere Islands, home to Tazmily Village, where our beautiful family of 4 lives. Our story truly begins just north of here, beyond the Sunshine Forest at Alex's home. Lucas lies sleeping and is woken up by Klaus shouting for Lucas to wake up so they can play with the Dragos, the local friendly dinosaurs as domestic as Boney. Here we begin to see how sweet and loving the family really is. When you go downstairs, you find Hinawa sitting at the table. You can talk to her, but she shows her care for you when you try to leave without changing. She reminds you to change into something better so you can play outside. Remember this, it's going to haunt you. Once we explore around outside, we find Klaus tackling Dragos. They are gladly playing along. Before leaving Grandpa Alex's house, Hinawa writes a letter sent by carrier pigeon to let Flint know that her and the boys are on their way back home, and that she hopes next time he can come too. Back in Tazmily Village, you take control of Flint. As you navigate through town and talk to the villagers, you begin to see that Tazmily Village is essentially a parochial commune. There's no crime. The shop has goods for free for those who need them. The villagers all get along and care about each other. They don't seem to worry about things outside of town, and there's not much in the way of material goods or material wealth. But it is akin to a utopia. These villagers live without worry in their lives and are not left wanting for anything. They have all the material they need. Tazmily Village is a peaceful, tranquil place without strife. One might say it's a perfect place. But Tazmily Village has a dark history. In fact, one might say it has no history at all. Who in the world is leader? There is an unassuming character you come across early in the game that stands out above the rest. Leader rings the bell outside of Tazmily village. That's all he does, until eventually, along with the rest of the villagers, Leader leaves Tazmily village. You cannot speak to him while he's there. You cannot interact with him in any meaningful way. He just stands there, ringing his bell, watching you, the player, until much later, when you find him hiding away in the sewers of New Pork City. In the sewers of New Pork City, he speaks for the first time and tells you all about the tragic history, or lack thereof, of Tazmily village and its villagers. Tazmily village is full of the survivors of a much larger, more powerful civilization that was destroyed by humanity itself. The people you see in town, except for the children, have brainwashed themselves in order to believe they had been living in a state of harmony in the village for their whole lives. The ringing of the bell helps with that. They believed that their past lifestyle caused the end of the world, so they locked the memories of the past away in the hummingbird egg in case they ever need that knowledge again in the future, and created what you see before you in Tazmily village. A place without strife, a place without want, a place where everybody gets along. Only Leader retained his memories as he was their leader. However, because this means Tazmily village has no history, they have nothing to remember or learn from, so they are much more easily manipulated. While they live in peace and harmony, this utopia has its shortcomings. Tazmily village reminds us that no place is a perfect place. Literally, the word utopia was originally coined in 1516 by Sir Thomas More for his book titled Utopia. The title is derived from the Greek prefix "u", meaning not, and topos, meaning place. The book is a fantastic description of a place of religious tolerance, equality of the sexes, a society free of private property, and free of violence. You know, something the British could only dream of. Tazmily's shortcomings are taken advantage of once the snickering, dastardly facade arrives with his enslaved monkey in tow. Money. We all need it. We all work for it. We can't live without it the way Tazmily villagers can. But what happens when you introduce money into an ecosystem that has no need or desire for it? By making it sound important, of course. By creating that need. And that's exactly what Facade does. As you make your way to C.R.E.A.M Castle, playing as Duster, you come across the mustachioed Facade, giving large sums of money to Butch, a pig farmer. He has no idea what it's used for. He has no idea what it is. All he knows is that he thinks it sounds important. He's certain that he must hide it away. So he tells one of two of the only professional thieves in town. At the end of the chapter, Butch finds his money has gone missing. He's quick to accuse Duster, given his record. But in fact, it was Facade who had overheard the entire conversation. Facade's next move is to create need by pitching happy boxes. He stands before a small audience of Tazmily villagers and explains the need for happiness. Facade ties the need for happiness with the need for money. As Salsa, an abused monkey enslaved by Facade, you are required to deliver these happy boxes to homes in Tazmily village, and over time the village begins to change. The houses become more urban, looking very much like the infrastructure of Onnit in Earthbound. People start caring more about being happy, whatever that means. They start to care more about how they are perceived by others, and what they have in their own homes. They fall under the trap of materialism, filling their homes with useless, happy branded junk, even though they don't even know how to use it. Wallpaper is propped up to appear more intelligent. They begin to care more about money, as seen when you return to the goods shop and have to start paying for those goods. People of Tazmily village become more and more isolated through Facade's efforts to introduce happiness. Facade's background is very fascinating, as he was not always a suspicious peddler. At some point before the start of the game, Facade was a magipsy. The Magypsies are a strange, ethereal, humanoid being that appear throughout the game. Masculine in appearance and feminine in personality, these unusual characters express themselves in truly strange ways. The Magypsies are kind of like guardians to Nowhere Islands. Throughout the islands, they have shell homes close by needles stuck in the ground that are placed into the ground to lock down a sleeping dragon. Pulling one means the death of a Magypsy. But why does Facade betray them? Perhaps Facade wants to live, so Facade is motivated to do what they can to not give up their life. However, Facade is working for Porky, whose ultimate desire is to end the world, so it doesn't seem to be that Facade wants to live. Leader gives a hint by telling us that Facade, formerly known as C.R.E.A.M, betrayed the others, implying that Facade went to Porky themselves on their own. It's never really explained what C.R.E.A.M wants, but I believe C.R.E.A.M, or Facade, has fallen into the same mindset as Porky. C.R.E.A.M feels existential dread at the threat of the needles being pulled at the end of their life. This contrasts with the other Magypsies who speak to this end of their existence romantically. If C.R.E.A.M has to go, so does the rest of the world. Otherwise, there's no meaning to this life. This sort of nihilism fits exactly in line with Porky's own motives. All of this is possible because of the army backing Facade, the pig masks. Simply put, they are fascists. They goose-step around, trampling on everything beautiful. They use farmland to train their recruits. Anyone who refuses to get a happy box is strong-armed into getting one through force of violence. Their reign puts Tazmily Village's prison to use for the very first time, except once, when Flint went and lost himself in grief. Fire starts unexpectedly. The whole town scrambles to save those trapped within the forest. Lighter and fuel are stuck inside. Flint's family is also stuck in the forest. They're in danger. And to make matters worse, there's something different about the forest. The animals are acting strange. They're unusual and aggressive, unlike the Dragos we saw earlier playing so casually with the boys Klaus and Lucas. These monsters want to fight. You must navigate yourself far north into the forest to find fuel inside his burning home. As you bring him to safety, you find Lighter laying out on a bed with injuries. Villagers surrounding him, talking to him, comforting him. Flint returns to the Yado Inn, but there's still no sign of your family. You make the dangerous trek back toward the forest in search of them. Flint makes his way through the forest only to find that the unimaginable has happened. The boys have been found. They're cold, wet, so a fire is made to warm them up, and Bronson has to deliver the bad news. He tells Flint that Hinawa is dead, and all that's left is the Drago tooth lodged in her heart. Upon hearing this news, Flint lashes out, and you feel his anger. You feel the blinding rage he feels, the overwhelming emotion of loss. Flint misdirects this anger and goes after his fellow villagers because he can't process what's happened. He can't deal with these emotions so suddenly, so unexpectedly. The reticent man the villagers have come to know now creates fear, and they are afraid of what Flint might be capable of in this moment, and worry about how it will reflect in front of his son. Then he's knocked out, and Flint is taken to the Tazmily jail. He wakes up to his last memory of his beautiful, loving wife. Had Flint been able to go, would things have turned out differently? Could he have saved his wife and his son from this tragedy to come? Hinawa's last words to Flint are so gentle. Thousands of thoughts must have raced through his head upon hearing of Hinawa's death. The possibility of saving her, had he been there, surely haunts him as she was pulled away from him far too soon. When Flint wakes up in prison the next day, Klaus stops by with an apple as a snack for his father. Lucas is at Hinawa's grave crying, unable to stop grieving for his lost mother. This contrast cements the difference between Klaus and Lucas As Klaus is about to leave after leaving the apple behind, he tells his dad that he's going to get stronger. Before Flint can say anything, he runs off in search of revenge. When Flint doesn't see Klaus at Hinawa's funeral, he searches desperately for his son, but Klaus's vow to become strong would be the last time Flint ever saw Klaus. Along the way, Flint finds pig masks working a machine of unknown origin and unknown use. He also finds a letter we later find out is a memo from Porky himself to make animals cooler because they're currently boring. These pig masks have bastardized nature and will create chimeras, sick perversions of otherwise friendly animals on a peaceful island for their own entertainment. Flint is never able to find Klaus, nor is he able to find a Drago. Instead, he finds a monster, a mechanical beast that has lost its sense of reasoning, lost its compassion, and has only destruction in mind. The painful torture of the pig masks on these abused animals has made them aggressive. Flint fights the Mecha Drago by using its missing tooth to pierce its thick hide so he may kill the beast as it killed Hinawa. The baby Drago comes to protect its mother, but it's too late. Flint is no better than the monster the fascists made. He has ripped apart a family and left a child without its mother. The chapter ends with Flint still looking for his boy. The camera moves past Flint in his search. He's unable to find that his son has been brushed aside off over the cliff's edge. Flint would never give up his search for his son in the following 3 years. Within the span of 24 hours, Lucas's entire world has been torn literally in half, losing both his beloved mother and his older brother. Lucas is devastated. His father has become a recluse in constant search of Klaus to try and bring his family back to some semblance of normality. But it can never return to what it used to be. And it all has to do with the pig masks and their master's plan to destroy the world. Porky plans to have all the needles pulled by a heartless person to use the dragon's power. This dragon has the power to cataclysmically destroy the world, as the civilization before their time had done. Hellfire and destruction will rain down upon the inhabitants of the world, and all will be lost. But if another succeeds in pulling the needles before Porky, he has the power to restore the world to a place full of good. Only one with a pure heart may take the needle, thus infusing the dragon with the pure intentions of the soul that frees the dragon. With that in mind, let's talk about our main character, Lucas. From the beginning, we can see that Lucas is not as brave as his older brother. The other villagers also comment on his soft nature, calling him names such as Crybaby. We get a glimpse of how these forces shape Lucas's interior life when Lucas's insecurities are manifested much later in the game as you travel through the Forest of Illusion on Tanatana Island. These walking nightmares reveal Lucas's intrusive thoughts. There are post boxes and visages of Flint and Klaus and other members of Tazmily village sprawled throughout the pathway. Take a look at the postcards Lucas finds. The boy named Lucas is crying at a grave. The boy named Lucas and his dog are loitering in the forest. The boy named Lucas is getting into trouble in the mountains. The boy named Lucas stole nuts from our garden. The boy named Lucas is bullying animals. The boy named Lucas learned some bad magic. The boy named Lucas. The boy named Lucas. The boy named Lucas. The boy named Lucas. Stuffed inside the mailbox was sheer, never-ending darkness. Klaus tells him, "Everyone's waiting to throw rocks at you, spit on you, and make your life hell." Who's everyone? Everyone you love. Flint says, "I'm gonna beat you. I'm gonna beat you, boy. Daddy's gonna beat you." This forest reveals the inner horrors haunting our young protagonist. His fears and anxieties are exposed, staring him in the face, and damn, man, if that's not relatable, I don't know what is. I think everyone feels like this in their darkest moments, and it hurts so much here because we've seen Lucas be brave despite all of his fears. This perceived weakness is his strength. If we look at Klaus, Klaus is more along the lines of a traditional JRPG hero. He's brave and daring. We can see that as he plays with the Dragos, and when he vows to become strong enough to defeat the Drago that killed his mother. This adventurous, daring spirit is exactly what causes him trouble. Lucas has to learn to face his fears and be courageous. Upon taking control of Lucas in Chapter 4, you're treated to a familiar scene. Lucas is just getting out of bed, and he's about to set out as he was in Chapter 1. Of course, everything is different now. He's older, and his family has been torn in half. And this time, every inch of his home reminds him of his mother's love. He can't escape what haunts him. A quick look in the mirror reminds him of his mother grooming him. However, Lucas has to continue on and face his fears. He has room to grow at that point. All throughout the game, Lucas is faced with traumatic moments that help him grow. Not only with the loss of family, but the actual physical trauma he experiences, usually in the form of electric shocks. In one instance, he's drowned, although the implication is much darker than that, and it's something I don't care for in the game. He's forced to become stronger though. In Club Titiboo, Lucas echoes his brother's words, "I want to be stronger." You, as the player, must guide him and encourage him to face his fears and become stronger until, by the end of the game, Lucas is an extremely powerful force to be reckoned with. It's with this newfound spirit that this pure-hearted, gentle young boy can face his fears and pull the needles, filling the dragon with his good intentions. Unfortunately, there is another, one much stronger than Lucas, and he works for Porky. We are first introduced to the Masked Man in Chapter 5 after defeating Facade at the top of the Lightning Tower. Facade calls a helicopter for support and for the destruction of the tower, hoping to kill our main characters for upsetting him. It's pretty obvious that the Masked Man is Klaus. The game doesn't fully reveal this until later, but in the meantime, he's diametrically opposed to us. Ionia, the Magypsy, has already informed Lucas that a pure good heart fills the dragon with good intentions, while a pure bad heart fills it with evil. Ionia notices something wrong after the Masked Man pulls first needle. Ionia can't feel any goodness, nor any evil. Something is missing. As Ionia says, could there be people in this world without hearts? Klaus no longer has a heart, because Klaus is, according to Porky, his personal robot. He plans to use him to take the needles so he can destroy the world. Porky's fascist regime, using this poor, lost boy, reveals a simple truth in this family drama. Fascists have no heart. They may appear friendly and live among you, but fascism is an insidious ideology that uses violence on those deemed apart from the core. Facade uses the lightning power to smite citizens like an angry god. Flint's sheep are covered in soot after the animal shed is destroyed. Reggie loses his home, and Klaus uses the utmost force to assert his authority to stop Lucas from succeeding in pulling the needles. Unable to accept that his destructive attack failed, the Masked Man faces off against Lucas and his party for the first time. This battle is fairly manageable, but it betrays the power that Klaus truly holds. Through determination, Lucas and his team defeat the Masked Man to capture their third needle. Once the needle is lifted, a chauffeur drives the player to New Pork City. But before we discuss the monstrosity that is New Pork City, we have to reckon with the changes made to Tazmily Village. And the best way to do that is to look at how the people change. Take Isaac, for example. When Facade's happy boxes are introduced, Isaac is one of the first characters to ask for a happy box. He isn't sure at first. 3 others raise their hands out of curiosity or happiness, but Isaac takes a moment to consider his options. The crowd is split 3 and 3. Isaac stands in the middle, directly in front of Facade. He hesitates, tilts his head, and raises his hand to take part. He's now part of the majority in terms of present villagers. This likable lumberjack is the tipping point. He's the one that falls into the program the most. After a train station is built, there is a bulletin board where patrons can write their comments. Take a look at what Isaac writes. Show courtesy to Mr. Facade. There are many ignorant people who complain about him. I think that is a very bad thing to do. Tazmily is nothing without Mr. Facade. Please take this to heart. He becomes defensive of the program and even becomes your enemy. In New Pork City, you can find Isaac in a new outfit. No longer the flannel-wearing, likable village lumberjack. This man is a full-blown fascist pig mask. Although still cordial with Lucas, he recognizes Lucas as his enemy and threatens violence in the defense of his leader, Porky. He didn't sell out, he bought in. If we compare him to Wes, we can see that not everyone was on board. Wes is presented to us as a curmudgeon. In Chapter 2, Wes tells his son Duster that the time has come. He asks Duster to go to Osohe Castle and collect an important artifact, describing it as shiny, though never stating what it is. When Duster mistakenly brings back the noble spittoon, Wes destroys it and berates his son. Couple this with the fact that his son's limp is a result of Wes's thief training. Wes is not presented to us as a likable guy in the same way that Isaac is. He constantly insults Duster while they're traveling through Osohe Castle. When the Egg of Light goes missing after falling into a trap and Duster shows up, Wes is doubly upset that Duster survived. He even seems to forget all about Duster once they find Princess Kumatora sneaking through Osohe Castle. He shows compassion to Salsa by helping Salsa escape, but there is no compassion for Duster, ever. He's an absolutely horrendous father. However, he is the one to stand up for his beliefs against this changing tide. He's the only one outspoken about the changes that Facade is promising. As a result, his house is replaced with a decrepit nursing home with creaking boards. He's forcibly silenced. Let's now examine New Pork City. What can be said about New Pork City? It's the creation of a child. It's a soulless, vacuous space that puts up facades to represent what a child imagines a city is. It's a perverse place with no rhyme or reason to the contents of the city. There are cultural items crassly displayed in tandem, juxtaposed with each other. There's a cafe full of robots that look like Porky's mother, a large statue in memoriam to the leader himself, and there are the residents. Some of the residents are former Tazmily villagers, but a strange thing happens when you start to dig a little deeper. After defeating Facade for the last time in the sewers, more people show up. These people all have smiles on their faces, but why? When you speak to them, they can't even form complete thoughts. It's not really clear why they're so happy to be here, or even where they came from. That is, until you enter the Empire Pork building. Upon entering, you begin to learn more about Porky and what motivates him to do all of this, to shape nature, to suit his interests, to build a city dedicated to his own narcissism. You find that he really wants people to like him. There is a room buried away in the Empire Pork building where different people and animals, and even a frog, are enclosed in their own personal hot springs. This hot spring is altogether much different from the other hot springs that you see throughout the game. A receptionist just outside of this hot spring informs you of the happy juice used to ensure that everyone likes Porky. All manner of people are trapped inside these jars of happy juice. All people that likely didn't willingly buy into the program. This is where all the happy people come from in New Pork City. But where does Porky come from? And where did all these people come from before this? Porky's not from Nowhere Islands. Porky's not from this time. Neither are the others. Porky is from Onit, the hometown of Ness from Earthbound. And in Earthbound, Porky considered Ness his best friend. Although he was always a bit of a mean-spirited kid, leaving him with no friends, at the beginning of the game, a meteor crashes, landing near the top of the map. Porky and his brother Picky go to see what's happening. Picky disappears, so Porky asks Ness to help him because he's afraid. They find out from an alien from the future that the universe will be destroyed by a being called Gygus. Porky thinks he's not one of the heroes that will fight Gygus, so he goes home and isn't seen until Ness comes to the happiest cult. Porky joined the cult and rose to the rank of High Priest. He tries to make a human sacrifice out of Paula, only for Ness to put a stop to everything. In the Japanese version of the game, Porky feels remorse for what he's come to and tries to apologize for what he's done. Ness says nothing. It's at this moment where Porky fully changes and doubles down on his bad behavior. He loses his connection to humanity when he loses Ness. He decides to support Gygus. However, after Gygus is destroyed, Porky uses time travel to escape to another era, and those people he's taken to Nowhere Islands are the ones he's brainwashing into liking him and filling the streets with. It appears that many of them are from On It as well. Just look at the sprites for the NPCs that riddle the streets of New Pork City, and you'll notice that many of them look similar to On It's NPCs. There are a few signs that Porky has never emotionally recovered from Ness's rejection. At the top of the Lightning Tower is a room full of toys and luxury items. One item in particular is held in high regard, a friend's yo-yo. Porky, too, has filled his life with material goods to try and fill a hole in his heart. But is he truly happy? We never see him using this stuff throughout the game. It doesn't seem he's able to leave his life support to enjoy these treasures. Later still, we are treated to a parade of unusual figures from Earthbound that shows all of Ness's adventure. Porky can't give up Ness. It was the last bond remaining that he had, and that has broken Porky. Porky shows psychopathic tendencies throughout the game. The animals of Nowhere Island have become aggressive because they are a product of Porky's Chimera Lab experiments. And within the Chimera Lab, there are rooms full of evidence that these poor creatures are cut up and literally man-made. Further childish behavior includes humiliating Lucas by forcing him to go through the girls' restroom each time to get closer to floor 100 where he is. So when we meet the real Porky, we see that he's a bedridden old man that will never die. Once it comes to the final showdown, just before facing off for Locria's needle, we see Porky for who he really is. He already explained his master plan to use Klaus so that he and the Dark Dragon will be the only surviving beings in the universe. While he did create ways to artificially make people like him, deep down he must know that people don't actually like him. And that insecurity makes him still want to destroy everything, so that no one can dislike him. If you look at his spider mech, he sits protected in the middle, which is conveniently shaped like a crib. Fascism. A child's ideology. Porky does something really interesting when he realizes he's about to lose. His failure to stop Lucas leads to him hiding away in the absolute safe capsule. This capsule protects him from outside threats at the cost of never being able to escape from inside. This was Porky's plan all along. Porky wanted a way to escape the pain of feeling, all in a nihilistic attempt to close himself off from the pain it caused him to be rejected. He, in some ways, is a tragic character that couldn't cope with the need to grow up and mature when he couldn't have his way. Just like fascism. To promote the release of a long-awaited Mother 3, a peculiar and unusual commercial was made. It's this woman. She's sitting in a room and she begins crying. She's recalling her experience with the game. She describes it as a tearjerker, unaware that she'd tear up so much talking about it. It's heartrending, strange, funny, and heartrending. It's an extremely effective commercial that honestly perfectly encapsulates this weird, bizarre, satisfying little game. She states that every single line really hits you. And that's never so true as when you finally face off against the masked man for the final needle. By this point, Lucas has made incredible strides. No longer the scared young boy we were introduced to in the beginning of the game, Lucas is now a powerful force to be reckoned with that's faced off against a motley crew of unbelievable creatures, from the unusual chimeras spread throughout the game to animated, jealous musical instruments, to the best fight in the game, the homoerotic barrier trio. And now it's time to face off once and for all against the masked man, one-on-one. He's been drowned, traumatized, beaten up, knocked out, fallen over, and electrocuted. He's faced it all, but now Klaus isn't holding back. Klaus is out to kill, while Lucas only wants his brother back. Now Klaus is using all of his might, all of his strength. This is the final showdown, a battle between life and death, the destruction of the world or the revival of it. Lucas doesn't stand a chance. His brother's power is insurmountable. Klaus is relentless. He doesn't stop for a moment and hits with everything he has. Lucas can only defend himself to withstand the powerful blows Klaus lays upon him. Flint manages to get through and tries to put a stop to the violence, only to be done away with easily by Klaus. Lucas is left alone to face his brother. Boney, Duster, Kumatora, and his father lay on the ground, unable to help Lucas. They can only watch as Lucas is pummeled heartlessly till the voice of Hinawa speaks to Klaus. She's had a presence throughout the game, but it is vital here. She's here to stop the fighting, scolding her boys. Klaus ignores Hinawa's words time and time again. After trying to find a way back into Klaus's heart, she comes to understand Klaus and what he's been through. She understands what happened with him and why. And most importantly, she understands how he feels when she simply states, "You must be so exhausted." I think I speak for everyone when I say this is the line that hits the hardest. It's impossible to imagine the horrors Porky put Klaus through to make him a heartless, robotic killer. But whatever it must be, has to be impossible for a young boy to bear. Everyone has had events in their life that are hard to deal with, and it's even harder when you don't have loved ones around you to help you. It's exhausting to hold that inside, and it's this line that turns the tide. Klaus reveals himself. You see him for the first time in 3 years. He's no longer the masked man, but the fight goes on. The fight has changed. Not only has Hinawa's theme of love revived the once dead heart of Klaus, but Klaus has laid down his arms. His attacks are weak. He's hesitant to hurt his little brother. Lucas has the opportunity now to take revenge, but each subsequent hit causes Lucas to break down in tears because he knows this is wrong. Take a look at the messages that pop up each time you hit Klaus. Lucas isn't sure what to do anymore. Lucas shut his eyes tightly. Lucas felt heartbroken. Lucas wanted to cry. All of this while the masked man gazes at you or covers his ears. Is this what constitutes a crybaby? No. Of course not. He's expressing his emotions in a healthy way, in this horrible situation no one should be in. This situation would be agonizing for anyone. His father, his mother, his dog, and his brother are all reunited with him, if just for one moment, to decide the fate of the world in a fight to the death. Then Klaus takes matters into his own hands. Not wanting to force his brother to shed more blood, Klaus takes aim at Lucas one more time with his lightning attack. This attack is reflected by the Franklin badge, and Klaus hits himself, bringing him to the point of death. In his final moments, Klaus staggers to Lucas, embracing him. He says to his brother, "I'm sorry it turned out like this. I'm really happy you could be with me just before the end. Thanks. I'm going to where Mom is now. Lucas, I hope we meet again someday. Bye. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm sure we'll meet again." Heartrending is right. Klaus's rash behavior is understandable. It's natural for him to feel angry at the loss of his mother and wanting to get revenge, but his foolish bravery caused him to lose his life before he died, and then die a tragic death. But not before he had one more moment with his brother, one more chance for Lucas to smell him. This is Lucas's moment of closure, and it is as close to perfect an experience of art as I've ever felt. The carefully crafted text, the slowed down statements to emphasize the drama, the sweet last words of a loved one. I'm incapable of putting into words what these final moments do for me, let alone what they mean to me and what the whole game means to me. I've never been so moved by a video game story before or since playing Mother 3, and yet the game's not over. This is not The end. Pulling the final needle sets off a cataclysmic chain of events with volcanoes blasting and destruction everywhere. The dark dragon has awoken. Lucas has pulled his fourth needle, but was it enough to set the world right? It's not immediately clear because you're confronted by the end. The story is over. This isn't a cliffhanger. The emotional climax and narrative climax came one after the other, and has left us with an apocalyptic image that makes one wonder whether pulling only 4 of the needles was enough to overcome the emptiness put into the dark dragon. But then you are given control of the end, and when you begin to walk around, you run into characters you met throughout the game, and they're glad to be there. They seem happy, and then the game speaks directly to you, the player. You see, early in the game, while you are playing as Flint, you can enter a place of worship. If you talk to the centerpiece of the shrine, it will ask you for your real name, you, the player. For me, it's a little hard to tell when the game speaks directly to the player because I share the same name as our beloved main character, which makes this game feel all the more real for me. But the game does speak to you and gives you encouragement. I think that's just very special and a beautiful way to deal with the fallout of the destruction you just witnessed after the tragic family reunion. You are treated to a parade displaying all the characters you come across throughout the game. By the time it reaches the family, we get one more reminder of what this family could have been had none of this ever happened. And at last, we are greeted with the game's final title, and the O replaced with an earth. This sharply contrasts with the title at the beginning, which shows a mechanical, lifeless, and robotically infused chimeric Mother 3. The O, a sphere of metal, and the letters altered like the Mecha Draga. Ultimately, while the game doesn't explicitly state what happened, you have succeeded. Your actions have meant something. You have meant something.